Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my labor and delivery experience. It was not anything like I expected. I mean, is it ever anything like you expect? But I did go to a lot of the what are they technically called Lamaze classes? I don't even know what they're called, but a lot of birthing classes and stuff, and they kind of, I guess, are supposed to help you prepare for what's gonna happen, but it didn't. So maybe you can learn a little bit from my experience, and hopefully I can help you if you happen to go through what I went through. My due date for Dawson was September 2nd. Now, we all know that usually you don't have your baby on your due date. That's usually not too common. But this was my first pregnancy, and again, not all the time, but usually I hear that your first pregnancy, you usually go late, you have to get induced, and yeah. So I was just kind of expecting him to come later than his due date. I never thought he would come early, anything like that, but he came early. So one of the things they told me in the classes was that I think the percentage is 90% of women's water does not break on their own. That usually you go into labor, you start having contractions, but your water does not break. Usually the doctor, the nurses, whoever does it, usually they have to break your water for you. That was not my case. So basically it was 1 in the morning on August 20th, and I just woke up for whatever reason. I kind of just woke up with a fright. Guess it was my body getting me ready, but I kind of just woke up and I was like, oh, okay. So I just rolled over, tried to get comfortable, and I felt this really kind of hard thud, low in my abdomen, kind of in my lady bits. And I was like, ow, okay, what the hell? Why is he kicking like that? But whatever. So I go to roll again, and then all of a sudden, just my water broke. And I hear about people where they only have a little trickle or, so many tablespoons at a time. Well, no, honey. My whole water was coming out of me like freaking Niagara Falls. So I shook Austin to wake him up. I'm like, Austin, wake up. I'm going into, I'm in labor. I'm going into labor. He's half asleep. Are you sure you just didn't pee yourself? I'm like, no, I didn't pee myself. Anyway, so I'm like, give me something, it's happening. So he gets up and he is going to the bathroom, and I'm yelling, what are you doing? I need help to get up. The bed's already soaked, but I was just scared to move. I just didn't know what to do. So sorry, I just wanted to wait for the dogs to stop barking, but I don't know if you can hear people talking in the background. If you can, I apologize. Anyway, so I'm shaking, Austin's in the bathroom. I'm like, what are you doing? I need help. I need to get out of bed. It's I'm going to the bathroom. I'm like, you're going to the bathroom? Oh, okay, sorry, I'm interrupting. I was so irritated. I'm like, stop, you need to come help me. So he comes, he's like, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm like, come help me up. So he comes, helps me up, and I stand up, and just just starts pouring out of me more. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, get me to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling contractions now. So another thing that the classes told me was that usually, they didn't even say usually. They said your contractions will start, roughly 20, 15, anyway, a large gap, that your contractions will start at 20 minutes, then go to 15, then 10, something like that. Well, that was not the case for me. My contractions started at 7 minutes apart. So I was freaking the hell out. I was like, my water is broken on its own. My contractions are 7 minutes apart. This baby is gonna come flying out. What the hell am I gonna do? So I finally get up from the bathroom, and I move myself to the couch. Now, I had everything organized 2 weeks ago. The apartment was spotless. All the bags were by the door. We took the car seat out to clean the car, so we had it by the door to go back in. Well, I don't know what the hell happened, but everything that can kind of like go wrong happened. We forgot the car seat, but we'll get there in a minute. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, okay, let the dog out before we go. Like, grab the bag, grab my bag, grab the baby bag. We need to go. And I'm feeling all the pain in my lower back, and I'm like, okay, this isn't terrible, but this is pretty bad. Like, I'm pretty uncomfortable. So I'm waiting for him. He's like, okay, well, I'm like, can we go? Like, we need to go. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, can you not fucking hold it? Like, can you not hold it? And he's like, no, like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, go to the bathroom. So this is totally gonna out Austin, but like, oh well, everyone does it. He goes to the bathroom and then he's done, and the toilet clogged. And he's like, okay, the toilet's clogged, but we gotta go. I'm like, we can't go leaving the toilet clogged. Like, my Nana lives kind of far away, so I had already called her and she was on her way, but she was gonna come, the plan was she was gonna come stay in the apartment while I was in the hospital and take care of the dog and stay there so she can come to the hospital, etc. So I'm like, you can't leave the toilet clogged. Like, first of all, like you just can't. Like, she's, like, it's not, I mean, it's gross. You wouldn't want to leave the toilet clogged to begin with, but it's not like we're just coming back. My Nana's going to be staying here. I'm like, you need to unclog the toilet and we need to go. So while this is all happening, I'm sitting on the couch, obviously in pain, and I had to change my pants, like, literally 5 times, because who cares? I didn't care about having wet pants going to the hospital. Like, I don't care who sees me, but it was so uncomfortable. I was just like soaked. So I changed my pants 5 times and I'm crying. He's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, because like I've changed my pants 5 times and we can't get out the door. So he went down to get the car, bring the car back around to the front. Long story short, it, for whatever reason, took us 2 hours to leave the apartment. So between Austin going to the bathroom, unclogging the toilet, getting the bags by the door because nothing was ready, grabbing the few things I had taken out for some reason, I don't know, to repack it, I don't know. Anyway, we get in the car and these contractions, everything is in my back. I felt nothing in my, like in the front of my stomach, nothing in my hips, everything was in my back. And I'm like, this is getting really intense really fast. So what are we at? 2, 3 in the morning. He's driving like a maniac. We had to get on the highway to get to the hospital. Probably going way too fast, but you know, we're thinking baby's gonna come flying out and I am in so much pain with my back. I'm just trying to breathe and trying to focus. So we get to the hospital and he's like, okay, like go in. I'm like he pulled into like the little emergency part where like the labor and delivery unit is. And I was like, I can't walk. Like my back is in so much pain. I can't walk. So he leaves the car, he runs into like, there's like a bunch of wheelchairs outside. So he gets a wheelchair, puts me in the wheelchair, wheels me to the front, left the car running there. So we go to open the door and it's freaking locked. The door is locked. I'm sorry, my dogs are, like my Nana's dog is barking again and now my dog's barking. I apologize. It's probably gonna happen 15 times in this video. I don't know what's going on today. They're just, the doors to the hospital are locked. There's this like little buzzer thing. So like, he's like, I guess I'll just press this buzzer thing. So he presses the buzzer and they're like, hi, can I help you? He's like, yeah, my girlfriend's in labor. Like, can you let us in? So they let us in, we go in and there's a security guard and that's it. So I'm like, okay, I can't wheel this wheelchair myself. You need to go park the car before it gets flippin' stolen. So go park the car. I think I can make it to walk to the elevator to go up. It's not a far walk. It was like 10 steps. So I'm walking to the elevator, like in between contractions in my back, and I press the elevator button. I get in the elevator. The elevator's freaking broken. It kept opening and closing, opening and closing, opening and closing. It was just, it wouldn't stay closed and go up. I don't know if I was doing something wrong. I don't know what was going on, but the elevator was not working. And I was the only one using it. Like, it was 3 in the morning. There was no one there except security guard. So I go over to the security guard and I like start crying. I'm like, the elevator's not working and I need to get up there like I'm in labor. Can you please help me? And he's like, okay. So he puts me in the wheelchair and we use a different elevator and we go up. Give them my information at the front desk and we go into this, excuse me, we go into this separate area where it's behind where the ladies were at the counter, and they only have so many rooms, and they put us in there, but they're not really rooms. It's kind of, well, they had some that were rooms and some that were just like curtains. So they put us in like a room because we told them my water broke, how far the contractions were apart. So they put us in this room. At this point, I am in so much pain. They're coming to put monitors on me and check me, and they're like, okay, so are you planning for an epidural? Like, what are you wanting to do? Now, the thought of an epidural used to scare the hell out of me. I was like, no, I don't want a giant needle in my back. I've heard so many horror stories. Like, it, you know, my mom had me, she did completely natural. And I'm not one of those people who are like, natural everything, you know? Like, that's not why I was doing it. I was scared of the needle. But I was told, don't tell your birthing team or whoever's delivering your baby that you don't want the epidural no matter what, because if that's what you tell them, like, tell them and say, no matter what, don't give it to me. If I'm begging, if I'm cursing, if I'm crying, don't give me the epidural. Do not say that, because you just never know. You just never know. Like, if you want, have a freaking safe word with your hubby and be like, if I say monkey, you better give me the damn epidural because I'm saying monkey. I said to her, I said, I wasn't planning on it, but I'm not saying no. And she was like, okay, well, if you don't want it, you know, keep your eyes open during the contraction so you can focus on like a focal point and breathe. I'm like, okay. At this point, the contractions are down to 5 minutes. The pain I am in, I am screaming. Everything is in my back. So my Nana's going out there. My Nana arrived. You know, she's like feeling so bad for me. She's getting me, I asked for like a cold cloth. She's putting that on my neck. I couldn't even sit still in the bed. I'm moving. My head was at the opposite end. I was sideways. No matter which way I stood, laid, crawled, it didn't matter. The pain was unbearable. All in my back. I wouldn't have known I was having a baby, honestly, because I had no pain in the front of me. It was all in my back. Like, I felt like my back was just slowly, it was, no. So my Nana tells people, like, the pain is all in her back. Like, I've never heard of that, but, you know, is there anything we can do? And they said, try to get her to walk, try to get her to walk. Well, it wasn't a good idea. So they're like, okay, try and walk. Well, I'm like, okay, I really can't imagine walking right now, but we're just gonna try. So I'm slowly making my way to the wheelchair. Wheel me out to the hallway and then I'll try and stand up. So they do that. So I keep a wheelchair close by. And I stood up, I walked 2 seconds, and of course another contraction happened. So I'm holding over, I'm like standing over the wheelchair holding it. I'm like, I cannot walk. My back is going to break. Like, I felt like my back was breaking. So I sit down, I'm so nauseous and so much pain. And I'm one of those people where throwing up is my biggest fear. I don't know why. It's just, I turn into a 5-year-old. I cannot handle puking. I can't handle being nauseous. It's just, ugh, I can't. So all of a sudden I'm in a chair and I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. Austin's like, okay, throw up. He's like, just go for it, okay? And I'm like, okay, I'm like just trying to breathe. I'm trying to stop myself from throwing up, although I'll probably feel better. But, you know, I'm terrified of throwing up because I'm a weirdo. All of a sudden, like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. I kind of like try to wave my Nana out of the way, and she thinks I'm like calling for her, and I'm like, no, get out the way. I'm gonna puke on you. So Austin turns my chair quickly so I don't puke on her, and I just puke all over the floor. He's like he's literally holding my head back and, like, you know, rubbing my back while I'm puking. So I'm done puking. This nurse comes out and she brings a little bedpan, like not like an adult bedpan. I'm talking about like one of those little tiny, I think it was a bedpan, like it's a U shape. Maybe that's not a bedpan. I don't know. I thought it was a bedpan, a U-shaped kind of bedpan, plastic thing. I'm talking this size, this size. It was like a tiny little mini thing. Can you puke in this next time? Come again? No, I cannot puke in that. Do you not see the puke all over the floor? It's just gonna splash out and go everywhere. I don't know how you expect me to puke in this tiny little thing, but like, I'll try my best. And like, Austin kind of just looks at her and like looks at me. He's just kind of like, okay, lady. Anyway, so she's cleaning up the puke. Sorry, this is like really gross, but she's cleaning it up. She's like, have you been eating? I'm like, no, I have not been eating. And my Nana's like, well, like I gave her a few ice chips like to chew on. Oh no, don't eat ice chips, you're gonna puke more. I'm like, I thought in all the movies they have like ice chips. I mean, it is a movie, but, and I'm like, you gave, like, so another nurse gave the ice chips. If I wasn't supposed to eat them, you think she would have said, here's some ice chips. I don't know what you want to do with them, but you can't eat them. Well, that's not what she did. So I'm done puking at this point. I'm like, just get me back to the room. Like, this is just a lost cause. They get me back to the room. I am like blacking out. I couldn't speak. I was like throwing myself in different directions on the bed. Like, I have endometriosis, so I have felt super, super intense cramps where there's studies that have proven that endometriosis pain is as bad as labor. It's the same spot, it's the same type of pain. So I was thinking I was okay. I was even told by nurses that you have endometriosis, so like, you probably won't be too bad in labor. Yes, it'll hurt, but like you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. I had no cramps, not one bloody cramp. It was all in my back, and no one prepared me to have pain in my back. I just didn't, no one prepared me. Well, they told me because of the, like, I was kind of in like a waiting labor room. I don't know what they called it, but they said, we cannot give you the epidural until you're in your birthing suite. Is that what they call it? Birthing suite? Until you're in your birthing suite. So my Nana and Austin are like, okay, great. Like, when can we get there? Well, all the rooms are taken. So as soon as one is available and cleaned, yada, 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 we'll get you in there. I am in so much pain. I remember going through my head thinking, I wish I could pass out so they could give me a C-section. Like, I was in that much pain where I was like, I wish someone would punch me in the face, where I would knock out and be like, oh my God, she passed out. Like, we're gonna have to deliver the baby. Like, clearly I wasn't thinking straight, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, I wish I could pass out. Like, I can't. Like, and I remember saying to Austin, I was like, I can't do this. He's like, what do you mean you can't do this? Like, he's like, you don't have an option. Like, baby's gotta come out. So I'm bawling and crying, and then I just go from and then I was just mute. I couldn't speak. And my contractions were down probably now to about 4 minutes. Finally, okay, we have a room for you. Well, I took every ounce of energy I had. I got in that wheelchair as fast as I physically possibly could through contractions. And I remember them wheeling me to the birthing suite. I remember going in, and there's like nurses like kind of laughing, and all I remember is I could smell bagels, and I thought I was gonna freaking puke again. So they're wheeling me, and I just remember going like this in my gown. And I was like, I don't even know if you can hear me through my sweater. I was like this. I was like, oh my God, like, please, please just do something. So they get me to the birthing suite, and they're like, okay, epidural. I'm like, yes, I've been asking for it for 10 hours. Well, not 10 hours, obviously, but I'm like, yes, I want the epidural. Let's go, let's go. So they get me in the birthing suite. They come over, sign, you know, okay, when you sign this, I'm like, yep, okay, I'm not going to read it. I don't care. I'm signing my life away. I may be signing my child away. At this point, I don't know. I'm just going to sign it. So they kick everyone out, kick my Nana out, and kick Austin out. You can't be in here for the epidural. So they come in, you know, they're doing the iodine or whatever on my back, and I wasn't even scared of the needle at this point. I wasn't scared of anything. I was just, I don't know. I was mute. I was knocked out. It just wasn't happening. So they put me on the edge of the bed, and the nurse kind of like put her knees up or something. She's having me kind of lean forward on her, and I could hold her knees. I can't really remember. So they're saying, okay, like, here we go. And I'm thinking this is gonna bloody hurt, but it can't hurt much worse than the pain I already have in my back. And the problem is, of course, they're trying to wait in between contractions, but they were so like close and kind of getting all over the place at this point. It didn't matter. So they put the needle on my back, and I hardly felt it. Like, yeah, I felt it a little bit, but it felt like a normal shot that you get like for the flu or something, just in my back. It was nothing to me. I don't know if that was just my doctor or my pain tolerance. I don't know, but it was fine. It was totally fine to me. So the hard part is that I had a contraction as he was doing it. And I remember thinking, oh my God, do not move, do not move, do not move. Because I've heard stories where people move and they hit something, you're paralyzed. Like, I just remember squeezing her knee, this poor nurse. I started squeezing her knees so hard. She's like, okay, honey, all right. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm like, it's not the needle, it's a contraction. She's like, okay, just breathe. And I'm like, I'm breathing. So the epidural's in. And I don't know if people realize this, and this is what grossed me out most about the epidural, was that there's a tube and a wire that stays in your back. I'm very queasy when it comes to like anything like with needles and stuff like that. That was the part that grossed me out the most when I used to think about the epidural. I always thought the epidural was a needle and you're done. It's a tube that stays in your back, and then like I've seen people press it on their own, or the nurse does it, but it's like medication that goes into you constantly. I literally thought it was a needle and you're done. Again, I didn't care at the time, but I forgot to mention that earlier. That's why, another reason why I was just, didn't want to do the epidural, just grossed me out. So the epidural did not kick in instantly. After they were done, they like, hey, you're done. And I remember feeling, I had the contraction when they were doing it, and then it stopped. By the time he was done, he took it out. Another one was going on. I was like screaming again. And the guy, I remember him saying like, hey, you'll be out of pain soon. Like, I was like, okay. So give it about 10, I think it took maybe, I don't know, maybe like 7 minutes. I would say under 10 minutes to kick in. And then it started kicking in. I could still feel the contractions, everything in my back, but it wasn't as strong. It was slowly getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I just got this burst of energy. I was like, oh my God, I feel, and it sounds ridiculous, but I was like, I feel like $1,000,000. Like, I feel human. I couldn't believe, I mean, I knew I was gonna feel better. I wasn't gonna feel any pain. But I didn't realize, like, I thought I was gonna be like, oh my God, okay, thank God that's over. I'm just gonna keep crying and I'm exhausted. That wasn't me. I had a bunch of energy. I wanted to stay awake and talk. Like, I was just like on cloud nine, like, this is great. Like, let's go. So my Nana and Austin came in, and I'm like, well, hi guys. And they're like, what? They're like, oh, hello, you're human again. My boyfriend always teases me that I was like demonic because I was like rocking back and forth. Like, I was doing this weird stretch with my neck because I think I was just in my head thinking like, if I stretch my neck, it'll go down to my spine, and I don't know. I don't know. So they're like, oh my gosh, you're a completely different person. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel nothing. I feel great. You know, and Austin's like, oh, are your legs like numb? I'm like, yeah. Like, he's like, oh, well, can you feel that? I'm like, no, I can't feel that. Anyway, so the nurse came in to like do a few checks or whatever. And then I remember I told her I could feel them kind of getting strong again. So she did like another dose, whatever it is. I don't know. And she was like, okay, I'm just going to check if you need to go to the bathroom, like if your bladder's full. Another thing that grosses me out is catheter. I've never had one in my life, and obviously you're completely numb, but I was just terrified. And the nurse probably thought I was a wacko, because I remember saying to her, she's like, okay, I have to give you a catheter. I was like, do you have to? And she's like, yeah. She's probably like, you're gonna push a baby out of your vagina, like you're worried about a catheter. But I was just grossed out. And I'm like, you promise I won't feel it? She's like, no. I'm like, you promise? She's like, yeah, you won't feel it. So she did it. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't feel anything. So she relieves my bladder, everything like that. And she's like, okay, I'm just gonna check you while we're down here in your spread eagle. Let's just check you. So she's checking me, and she's like, can you kind of feel me right now? And I was like, kind of, yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, I can feel your hand, like kind of like pressure. And she's like, can you tell, sorry, this is like kind of TMI, but she's like, can you tell like how far in I am? And I'm like, I mean, you don't feel too far. Like, why? She's like, the baby's head is right here. I was like, huh? They told me that I'd probably have a few hours and that the baby would be delivered today, but probably not until like the later afternoon. And I think at this point it was like almost close to 9 in the morning, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, she's like, yeah, the head is right here. And I'm like, so she's like, yeah, you're gonna start pushing in like, I don't know, 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. So Austin is asleep on the like couch there, and I'm like yelling at him to wake up, like, wake up, wake up. Austin, it's time to push. And he's like, get the fuck out. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, they just checked me. Like, it's time to push. Like, I have no time. Like, no time to nap. Like, nothing, relax. It's time to go. He was like, okay. So my Nana like leaves the room, and it's just Austin and I, and the nurse is coming in. She's like, okay, we're gonna do some practice pushing. And I'm like, okay. So she's telling me to push as hard as I can. She's like, stop. I was like, okay. She's like, don't push anymore. Okay. So I'm not pushing anymore. Then the doctor came, she got there just in time. She's like, hi, I heard you're like a pro pusher and that we don't need to practice pushes with you. So I got here just in time when you're gonna start pushing for the baby. I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, they tell me what to do, hold my head up. And about 4 pushes later, and Dawson was here. People ask, you know, did I feel, although I had the epidural, did I feel him coming out? And I did. I still felt my contractions in my back, but just slightly. I mean, I felt pain, but compared to what I was feeling, I was like, this is nothing. Like, this is fine. This is totally fine. And I felt pressure down there when he was coming out. I didn't feel pain. Now I did have to get an episiotomy, which sucked, but I kind of expected that was going to happen because I hear that's quite common. So yeah, he comes out, she puts him on my chest, he starts peeing. I remember he was on my chest and I was looking at Austin and I'm crying, of course, and you know, we're all excited. So they wiped him down a bit and then they took him over to weigh him and stuff. So I told Austin to follow and take pictures and whatnot. Then she told me she was going to start taking my placenta out and I was like, okay. And I didn't feel that at all. I've heard before that people ask you to push or that you feel it, you still have contractions. I didn't feel anything, didn't feel it come out, nothing. Again, I was cut open, so maybe that's why I didn't feel it, because everything was just a bit whiter. But yeah, it was, you know, it's crazy because everyone does say to me, once that baby comes out, that baby's on your chest and the baby's out, you don't care what they're doing. Like, you don't focus on what instruments are going in and out, what they're doing. You're not even focused. Like, you're just like totally focused on this baby that you just had, which is so true. She told me, she goes, I had to cut you, so I'm going to stitch you all up. And I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. And yeah, so I'm trying not to make this video crazy long, so I won't go into like details kind of what happened after, but yeah, that's basically my labor and delivery story. Obviously it's worth all the pain. So the reason I had all the back pain was because he was flipped the wrong way. So he still came out like head first, but their faces, I believe, is supposed to be down and he came face up. So as he's coming out, I remember hearing her in the background. She's like, oh, that's why you had all this back labor, which now I've done research and I've heard that usually they can tell, I guess, if they're flipped the wrong way to come out, but I guess they couldn't tell with me or they didn't check, I don't know. But yeah, that's why I had all the back labor. So it kind of made sense after. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I would go through that pain 100 times over just to have him. And it's even weird saying that because even just saying those words, I'm like, oh my God, the pain. But yeah, that's my labor and delivery experience. Hopefully next time around when I do have another baby, I don't have it all in my back. It would be interesting to experience labor, I don't want to say normally because I feel like there really isn't a normal way, but maybe normally, and have contractions in my stomach and in my hips and not have back pain. And you know, we'll see what happens that time around and see if I do want an epidural and what, you know, what goes down that way. But yeah, it's the scariest, hardest, most amazing day of your life, all you know, all put together in one. If I had any advice for people, I would say decide ahead of time who you want in the room. Usually people do, but I've just heard stories where like people, you know, their moms want to stay, they don't want them in, they haven't kind of had that talk yet. Yeah, and to each their own of who you want in the room. You know, I guess it depends on your age, depends on your experience, depends if the father's involved or not, depends. There's so many circumstances. For me, I loved it being just Austin and I because that was like our first moment as a family together. Like, maybe this is kind of gross and cheesy. We made him together, just the two of us, so let's experience him being born, just the two of us. And there's so many people that come to the hospital and come to see you and the baby, and it's kind of nice to have that moment where it's just the three of you, just you your man or whoever that other one person is you want to be in the baby, I just find that was the best decision for me. If I have any other advice, I would say, even if you are a crazy, not crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, but even if you're one of those people who are 100%, you know, natural, no medicine, you know, you want to tough it out and whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. But my advice, don't say for sure you do not want that epidural. You know, it sounds dumb, but literally just like have like a key word where you say, okay, if I say pink, that means I can't take it anymore. This is not me saying I can't take it anymore, like, but I don't want it. No, if you say pink, that means it's real now, we need the epidural. And that's my advice. Just so you have that option. Just think about it, you know? I mean, it doesn't hurt to have the option. Don't have to use it, but at least you have the option. But yeah, so best day of my life, and now I'm a mom 6 months later. Holy cannoli. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video about my labor and delivery story. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like and subscribe for more videos. I usually do a poll about what video people prefer to see on my Instagram. I always put the link below in the description box. My Instagram is In Between Moms, so stay tuned to my Instagram stories to vote on what video you prefer to see. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.